Hi everyone, welcome to our very first episode of the Wholegains Podcast. We are your hosts. My name's Jess.
I'm Alpha.
Cool. And we're really happy to have you along on this adventure.
We are. We are going to pretty much be talking about our background, our friendship, and just give you guys an introduction to who we are, why we started this, where we're going with it, and the series that we started as well called Know Thyself, what that's all about. So we're going to really just get into that, and it'll just be an easy flow. So yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about identity and things like that, because that's pretty much what our series will be touching on as well. So Jess, let's start with our story, shall we? So our background, I guess it's just telling our audience a little bit about ourselves. Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'm historically terrible at these things. It's like one of those people ask you the questions and then all the information about yourself flies out of your brain, which is quite ironic given our first topic is Know Thyself.
Very true.
Yeah, okay. So my name is Jess. I am born and raised in Perth on the west side of Oz. I love it here. It's such a beautiful part of the country. Sunny days. And I really appreciate that whenever I travel anywhere, I'm always happy to come home.
That's so good. That's so good. Yeah.
Oh, yes, it is. I am the youngest in my family. I have two older sisters, and I work in the health industry doing exercise physiology and remedial massage. So I really love getting hands-on with my work and meeting lots of different people, talking with people and kind of journeying with them in their health. So yeah, that's like a little snippet of me. You'll get to know me more as we chat on, I'm sure. But what about you? What's your story?
Yeah, well, this is a really fun fact about the both of us. We're actually on different sides of Australia. So that's why we're recording it over Zoom. So Jess just mentioned, she's in Western Australia and I'm in Queensland. I moved up here a couple months ago from Victoria. So there's that. Yeah, so I'm more in the far north Queensland area, the Cairns sort of area. And so it's really nice and sunny up here. Nice change. But I guess some things about me is I am currently studying beauty therapy and I'm really enjoying that. I used to work as a youth worker and just be in that industry for a while in various roles, in church, in schools, in admin. And that was really great for a while. But my passion has always been about the well-being of people, just holistically. And over time, I've sort of gotten to know what that looks like from an emotional, intellectual, spiritual perspective, and also now going more into the physical side of things. So yeah, that's pretty fun. Yeah.
Yeah, you've done it all, haven't you?
Yeah, that's the point of holistic, I suppose.
That's true.
Yeah. I have 3 sisters. I'm the second oldest. And what else did you mention?
I think that was it.
I think that was it. Cool. Yeah. Just some basic things. Nice. Awesome.
Yeah, tick all the boxes.
Yeah. Now, in terms of our friendship, Jess, tell me, how did we meet?
Yeah, I love this. So I used to be quite heavily involved in the youth department in WA. It was a fun time, and I actually had the opportunity to do some maternity leave cover as the associate youth director. And that meant that I got sent across to, it was South Australia, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Adelaide.
In South Australia, in Adelaide, yeah.
Yeah. For some fun meetings. So I went as this sort of like fresh-faced, no idea what I'm doing, having a meeting with a bunch of people who'd been youth directors for ages, and I'm just like this kid, basically. I can't remember how old we were. It was a couple of years ago now.
Yeah.
Just like not really. yeah, not really knowing what I was doing, but just like, it's an experience. And then I met you and Jeff at the airport, and it was just sort of like sparks flew from there. I was excited that there was another person who was kind of like new to the environment as well. We were a similar age, and yeah, it just got on really well from the get-go. From my perspective anyway, I hope it was a shared experience.
Yeah, I definitely say it was a shared experience. Yeah, so just coming into the new role at the time was also a new role for me as well. So my role was a personal assistant to the youth director, which is Jeff, I think still, yeah, at the Union Conference for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So that's who we were working for at the time. And yeah, so I came on board as the personal assistant, just doing all the runaround stuff, you know, all the food prep, accommodation, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, we met Jess at the airport to pick her up, and we were heading over to our place. It was a camp, wasn't it? A campsite.
Yeah, I can't remember the name. Sorry,
It's
South
fine,
Australian.
I can buy. But anyway, it was in Adelaide. It was lovely. Had some really nice views. But yeah, pretty much we just met from there. And in between all the meetings, you know, we caught up, we chatted, had the most awkward moment meeting all the directors because I got a fly stuck in my throat. I don't know if you remember that because I was like choking heaps. And you were just like, I remember the thing that you said to me. You were just like, this is probably not the most helpful thing to say to you right now, but probably choking because it's trying to like get out. And I'm just like, yeah, that's probably what's happening right now.
What a valuable contribution. I'm so sorry.
It's great. It made the memory books. It made the memory books. So yeah, so that's pretty much where our friendship started. It was really great. It was, yeah, a really easy connection. And from there, it's been pretty much that. Our friendship has been over the phone ever since. Online, we haven't really seen each other in person since then, I don't think.
Like very fleeting at
no,
Converge.
We saw each other at Converge.
Yes, and the meetings that happened after Converge, yes.
Yeah. So that would have been like 2 years ago now.
Yeah. I remember being very like swept up in the way you talk so passionately about personality types. And I was just like mind blown. I'm like, there's so much that I'm going to learn from this person. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we did have a big conversation with that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That was really good. I think that was the first dinner we had as a group, and we just kind of sat at the end of the table and just talked about personality types. And you were just like, "Let me introduce you to yourself," and it was really great. And I'm like, "Well, she already knows the depths of my being, so I guess we're friends now."
Oh, that's so great. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like maybe this is too much information, but anyway, let's go with it.
I embraced. So, and yeah, I know it's been really good just like being able to connect over the phone and yeah, keep that thread of a solid friendship happening. It's been great.
Yeah, it has been so awesome, to the point that we have decided to connect even more by doing this podcast together. There was an idea that I had been wanting to do for a while, starting up a podcast. I just knew it wasn't something that I felt like I was supposed to do by myself. I felt like it would be a lot more interesting in discussion with somebody else. And as I was praying about it and thinking about it, I just found Jess to be the perfect person. The only thing that needed to happen was her saying yes, which happened, and that's why we're here. Pretty much. It was great because when we spoke about it, we were pretty much on the same level about what we wanted to produce through this podcast, which was really just real conversations about everyday topics, just things that a lot of other podcasters are doing, but from, I guess, a unique perspective, from our own walk, from our own faith walk, our own emotional journey, all that kind of stuff, our own circles. So yeah, we really hope that you enjoy the content that we produce, and we would always value the feedback as well, just to see if it's relevant to you guys, if you appreciate it, if you want us to talk on other topics as well. That's totally up for grabs. So yeah, I guess now we can just talk a little bit about the series then. So this series, it just actually came up with the title, which I think is pretty cool. So it's called Know Thyself. So Jess, do you want to tell us a little bit about what the series is on?
Yeah, well, I suppose to do that, I will go back a few steps a little bit into kind of what you were just chatting about. I think since we met, we've sort of just been like journeying in this parallel and doing life together. And finally our journeys intersected just at the right time to be ready to kind of take the leap of faith into like, hey, we enjoy the conversations that we have and get great value out of them. Maybe they're worth sharing. And I really appreciate like how you had this passion and invited me to be a part of that and help me kind of overcome my fear in that. And whilst that was all happening, it was when I kind of went through a life crisis, as happens, when I was really forced to kind of hold up this mirror and take a really good look at myself, because all of a sudden I was all I had. And through that, learning the importance of knowing who you are as a person, what your core values and beliefs are, first as a platform, as a foundation, before anything else, the different contexts and the different things that you face in your life, but keeping a knowledge of yourself and a value of yourself as quite central to everything else. There's a lot to it, which is why it's a series. Because I'm sure people, like, even with just what I said then, are probably like yellow flagging on a few things, like, isn't God supposed to be the center of your life, not you? Agree. But there's a few like little nuances and things to that, which I'm really excited to be able to delve into and share what our journeys have been in terms of getting to know who we are, as well as knowing the people around us, our close friends, our family, and understanding them better because we know ourselves better and have an orientation to that, as well as the way we see the world and everybody else around us, and how we relate to God through that too. So it's a lot to take in, but it is really a journey that we're still very much in the process of. But yeah, just that really foundational self-love, self-respect, kind of looking inward, doing the work, kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's a very
absolutely.
wordy summary.
It was great. It was good. Thanks, Jess. And I guess to add to that, I think what we sort of want to do is bring to light what that means, what those words, I guess, mean in our journeys, because they have different definitions depending on what angle you're talking about them from. We can see self-love as like, it gets really confusing. It can seem a little bit selfish. It can seem like, no, you've got to take care of yourself. It can seem like a very, the nuance of it is very broad. But then when we apply it to our own testimony, our own life, and what that looks like, it makes it a lot more easier to relate to. Which I guess is, essentially the point of these discussions that we have with each other and with other people as well. We'll invite on guests. And when we share our stories with each other, it makes it so much easier to walk through life, because one, we don't feel like we're alone. And two, we actually learn from each other as well. There are some things that we might not ever have to go through because somebody else did. And we can really just learn from their story as well. So yeah, that's a huge part of, I guess, the reason why we're doing this as well, and where we're hoping to get with it. I guess some of the topics that we want to really sort of talk about specifically on this journey of knowing ourselves, know thyself, it comes down to things like relationships. So not just romantic, we also want to talk about family and friendship. Friendship is a big topic. And other ones would be work and career, religion, our faith. Like, what does that look like? There's been a whole big shift when it comes to church and religion, especially through COVID-19, and big shifts, especially socially as well, with each other. Hobbies and interests, what does that look like now? Everything's changed in society. And it's just going to be really interesting to get, I don't know if this is the right word, retrospective, in terms of
Make it a word if it's not.
Just pretend you know what I mean. Like in terms of getting to know ourselves, like we've been really forced to look inwards during this time, which is introspective, I suppose. And then we've also been forced to look outwards too, because we can't ignore the things that are going on around us. And where do we meet in all of these spaces? And so I guess those are the discussions we're hoping to have with all of this. But I guess for our podcast, Jess, I'll just check with you. How's the timer looking?
We are sitting at a happy 15 minutes.
Oh, lovely. We've gotten through quite a bit there. That's great. Yeah, well, today we wanted to dive into, I guess, a very broad discussion around identity and self-worth and self-respect, just those terms and what they mean to us. Because they're big terms, and depending on what you studied in high school, I remember for me in year 11 and 12 English, identity and belonging were two big topics for us that we looked into. And I think people just got really over those words as we were like studying it through different texts in high school. But I think as we get older, we come to recognize the importance of those words because they are very tangible, but they're also very, what's the word? Another word for important, like to the point where you can't live without it. It's necessary to our existence.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
To know our identity, to have one, because we have one. The problem most of the time really is that we don't know what it is exactly. And the other point of belonging, it's important to be a part of something, including in ourselves. And a lot of the time, I think we try to reach out to places and try to have other things define us, identify us, create a space for us to belong. And we kind of forget about the fact that we have the power to do that ourselves. And we have the ability to get to know what that looks like. Otherwise, we kind of give away that power, give other people the opportunity to do that work, and that holds us back. It causes all kinds of anxieties and mental illnesses too, because we're not able to live authentically. And it's still scary though, taking that journey and getting to know ourselves, asking ourselves the questions, what do I actually value, what do I not? Because then that changes our circle of things. We might not believe the same things our parents did. We might not believe the same things that we grew up with, but what does that look like for us? And that maybe feels like we're stumbling at times, but I guess that's kind of like the process of like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. That whole process is awkward and it's dark, and it takes time. But anyway, I'll stop there for my little spiel on identity and belonging. And Jess, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean that was beautiful. I agree, and I think like what you said about words that are used. I mean, I'm just impressed that you remember things that you learned in English in school. All I remember was that my year 12 English teacher, instead of saying ideologies, said ideologies, and it really irritated me. So that was my takeaway. But no, definitely words like self-care, self-love, be yourself. It's almost like when you say it too much and oversaturate it, it loses its meaning. Like when you say a word too much, just any word like taxi, and if you said taxi too much, you'd be like, what is taxi? And the whole concept of the word just goes. And so there's that disconnect between what the actual process of self-love is and what that actually means, and we just sort of brush over it because we're like, too hard to think about that, that's going to be effort. And so we as humans have this tendency to just go into this almost autopilot, whether it's self-preservation or whatever. We just kind of float through life and don't have an opportunity to be challenged by some of those tough questions that we have to ask ourselves about who am I in this world. And somebody actually challenged me a couple of weeks back with like, well, who are you? And my answer was like, well, I don't know. And then they said, well, who is the I that you don't know? And it was just like, what? I had to really like pause and think about that for a second. And it can be scary when you feel like that sort of separation between yourself and yourself.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to someone like, I'm scared because I don't know who I am. And you feel like you're purposeless and lost, and you start to question whether you believe what you believe, or whether you've just been told that, and you start to feel hopeless and all this sort of stuff. And so to be able to know and have a trust in yourself and to know your worth is really important. But it's all very like easy to say that, but to know actually how to get to that point is another matter entirely. And I was so fortunate to be able to have wonderful people around me that helped me, and kind of held that mirror up. And I think that's what I'm really excited to do, is just sort of like dive into these particular contexts and say, hey, in this space, this is what this could look like. This is what, maybe if someone's breaking some of your boundaries in a friendship, this is what it might look like, and this is what it might feel like. And this is what you can do maybe to look after yourself in that space. Because it's a big, scary world out there. And if sometimes you just do need to be given examples of things to be able to be like, oh, I get it now. But to start is really hard. And I know definitely I had no concept of how to love myself. And I've just been so privileged to learn that. And that's what I really want to share with people, is just, you're like, well, yeah, people tell me to love myself. Where do I even begin with that? And I think it's really just taking the time to get to know yourself. And that's where kind of that true, genuine love starts to unfold, when you understand and you know, and you want to deepen that understanding. And then you find the like gold inside yourself, and that thing to love, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. I love that example of holding up a mirror, because that's exactly what the process is. But we pretty much learn to actually look at ourselves, and see ourselves, rather than see everybody else, the celebrities, everything that looks bigger and grander. And we use that as like our gauge for who we need to be or should be, and forget that we have a reflection to look at, and to get to know and to cherish and to love. It just reminds me of like that Bible verse. I gotta find it, guys. But basically, it was saying like how a man looks at himself in the mirror and he walks away and immediately forgets what he looks like. Pretty sure it's in James somewhere.
It is.
Yeah.
But I can't help you any more than that. I just know it's in James.
Oh, good. We might circle back to it in our next episode. But yeah, but it's so true. We do. We forget what we look like because we get so wrapped up in everything that happens around it. And it's no one's fault. It just happens. It's just the way things are run. And the thing that we can do for ourselves is really just wake up, essentially. Allow ourselves to open our eyes and to start seeing things through a new lens. But we can't put on a new lens if we don't know how to take all the old ones off, if we don't even know what they are. So yeah, so we hope, I guess, in this series, as we talk about it, it will be fun, and it will be deep, and it will be meaningful, but it will also, I guess, in that way, be relevant and helpful. That's pretty much our aim for all of this. So yeah, I guess if we want to add anything else before we sort of wrap up, how we're looking for time.
We've got, I think, 5-ish minutes.
Okay, cool. Nice.
But no, like, just super excited to like, there's going to be a lot of word vomiting, I feel, because I just want to say all the things. But like you said, from that verse in James, I definitely know that the more that I have looked at myself, the more I've seen God. And it's all I want for people to know their creator even more. But I think the beautiful thing about the process of knowing yourself is it's not just for believers of like the God that you and I know, that even if you don't have a faith that is under those terms, it's still really important and applicable. So, you can still share this stuff with not, I suppose, limited to a Christian context. Like it's for everyone, no matter where you are in you. And I guess we can talk about a little bit more when we get to the religion side of things as well. But you don't have to, or you say you know someone who doesn't know God, this is still important for them too. It's almost just like different terms, different understandings of how the world works. Maybe it's God, maybe it's the universe, maybe it's some other force that you believe in, or spirits, or things like that. There's still principles that you can apply and draw from and take, because everyone's understanding of the world is a little bit different.
It is different, but there are universal things like our identity. Like it is a very universal language. Absolutely. And so wherever you're coming from, whatever your background, if you're interested in these topics, please do stay tuned. We will aim to have a regular upload, and we'll let you guys know what that schedule will be like in the future. But nonetheless, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you've enjoyed getting to know a little bit about us. We'll continue sharing random things about ourselves as we go, because that also will be fun. And we look forward to seeing you guys, whether you see us, whether you're with us on YouTube or on Spotify or any other podcast platform. We look forward to having you guys join us again soon. Did I forget something?
Definitely. That was me realizing, not realizing, I don't know if we need to explain the name of the podcast.
Oh my gosh, yes, I did not even think about that. Well, you know what?
Because we get it.
Yeah, we do. We know. Well, Wholegains, if you guys want to know what all of that means, stay tuned for our next podcast, because we'll have more time to talk about it then, pretty much. But it's great. I mean, if you look on our Instagram page, you get a bit of a spiel of where we got it from through the emojis and stuff. It's a play on words. It's great. But I guess that'll be
that's our little teaser to keep you hooked. If you're curious about the title, stay tuned. See you next time.
Awesome. Cool. Also, me and Jess are just checking in on time, because we don't want this to run too long. We want it to be comfortable for your ears and your eyes. But sometimes the sessions can go on longer. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we're learning.
Cool. All right, guys. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
Bye.